The first bullet missed her head by half an inch. Lena didn't flinch. She was used to near-death greetings. But when the shooter stepped into the light, her blood turned to ice. Him, impossible. She'd watched him die 5 years ago, had mourned him in secret, buried the guilt deep enough to forget. Yet here he stood, gun leveled at her chest, his eyes colder than the grave he'd crawled out of. "Miss me, partner?" he drawled, and the past came roaring back like a wildfire. The lies, the betrayal, the truth that would burn everything she trusted to ash. And as the sirens wailed in the distance, Lena realized this wasn't just a reunion. Please wait. Before we start, tap that iCard button in the top right corner and smash that subscribe button. Right now, hit the notification bell so you're first in line when new stories land. All right, let's dive into the story. Chapter 1. The morning sun filtered through the dusty windows of the old tavern, casting long shadows across the worn wooden floor. The air smelled of ale and roasted meat, mingling with a low hum of chatter. In the corner, a burly man with a scar running down his cheek slammed his tankard onto the table, sending foam sloshing over the edges. "Another round," he bellowed, his voice rough as gravel. The bartender, a wiry fellow with a permanently bored expression, didn't even glance up. "You've had enough, Garik. Save some coin for your rent." Garik scowled, leaning forward. "Coin's the least of my worries. Heard the Black Fawn gang's been sniffing around the East Quarter. They're not exactly handing out flowers, if you catch my drift." Across the room, a cloaked figure stirred, fingers tapping lightly against the hilt of a dagger. "Sounds like you've got a problem," a smooth voice remarked. The hooded stranger tilted their head, revealing a pair of sharp, amber eyes. Or an opportunity, depending on how you look at it. Garrick's grin was all teeth. "And whose is skin?" The stranger leaned back, the shadows clinging to them like an old friend. "Let's just say I've got a knack for solving problems. For the right price." A chuckle rumbled from Garrick's chest. "A mercenary, yeah? Well, if you're looking for work, the Black Fangs ain't the sort you want to cross without backup." The stranger's lips curled. "Good thing I don't need backup." The tavern door creaked open, cutting through the tension like a knife. A young woman stumbled in, her breath ragged, her clothes torn at the seams. All eyes turned to her as she clutched the doorframe for support. "They're coming," she gasped. "The Black Fangs, they're burning everything." Silence fell like a hammer. Then chaos erupted. Chairs scraped, tankards clattered to the floor, and the bartender finally looked up, his face pale. "Damn it all," he muttered. Garik surged to his feet, his earlier drunkenness forgotten. "Guess we're out of time for negotiations." He shot the stranger a glance. "You in or out?" The stranger stood in one fluid motion, the cloak falling away to reveal a sleek, leather-clad frame. A dagger gleamed in their hand. "Oh, I'm in." Outside, the distant roar of flames and the clash of steel filled the air. The young woman's eyes darted between them, desperation etched into every line of her face. "Please, you have to help us." Garik cracked his knuckles. "All right, folks. Looks like we've got ourselves a fight." The stranger smirked. "Try to keep up." And with that, they charged into the fray, the fate of the town hanging in the balance. The story had begun, and there was no turning back. Chapter 2. Lena's knee connected with his ribs, hard. The impact should have sent him stumbling back, gasping for air. But the stranger barely flinched. His grip on her wrist tightened, cold as steel, sending a shiver up her spine. "You don't remember me," he murmured, voice low and rough, like gravel underfoot. She twisted free, muscles coiled, ready to strike again. "Should I?" The hood shifted slightly as he tilted his head. A sliver of moonlight caught his jaw. Sharp, angular, familiar. Her breath hitched. "No, that's impossible." She'd seen him die. 5 years ago. A mission gone wrong. An explosion that left nothing but ashes. Yet here he was. "You're not real," she hissed, backing up, her boots scraping against the damp pavement. A dry chuckle escaped him. Tell that to the bruise forming on your arm. Lena glanced down. A dark mark bloomed where he grabbed her. Real. Painfully real. Her mind raced. Hallucination? A trick? Some new enemy playing games? The stranger took a slow step forward. You always did think too much. That voice. That damn voice. It clawed at memories she'd locked away. Daniel. The name slipped out before she could stop it. He went still. For a heartbeat. The alley was silent except for the distant wail of a siren. Then, with deliberate slowness, he reached up and pushed back his hood. Dark hair, longer now. Eyes like storm clouds. A scar cutting through his left eyebrow. One she'd put there herself during a sparring match years ago. Her stomach dropped. "Miss me?" he asked, lips quirking in that infuriating half-smile she'd never forgotten. Lena's fist clenched. "You're supposed to be dead." "Yeah, well." He shrugged. "Turns out I'm hard to kill." She didn't lower her guard. Couldn't. This was a trap. It had to be. Prove it's really you. Daniel sighed, rolling his eyes. "You once stole my favorite knife and threw it into the river because I beat you in a race. You said it was payback." Her chest tightened. No one else knew that. But before she could respond, his expression darkened. "We don't have time for this, Lena. They're coming." "Who's?" A metallic click echoed from the rooftop above. Daniel moved faster than she'd ever seen, yanking her behind a dumpster just as gunfire erupted. Bullets shredded the brick where she'd been standing. Lena's pulse roared in her ears. "Who the hell is shooting at us?" "Same people who tried to bury me," he muttered, pulling a pistol from his jacket. "And now they're here to finish the job." She stared at him, the pieces clicking into place. This wasn't just about her. It never had been. Chapter 3. The night was thick with the scent of smoke and damp earth as the group moved through the winding alleys of the East Quarter. The distant glow of burning buildings painted the sky in angry hues of orange and red. Garrick led the way, his massive frame cutting through the shadows like a battering ram, while the cloaked stranger, now known as Kale, moved like a ghost at his side. The young woman, Lyra, clung close behind, her breath shallow with fear. "Keep your head down," Kale murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Black Fang scouts could be anywhere. Garrick snorted. "Let him come. I could use a good scrap to warm up." Lyra's fingers twisted in the hem of her tattered cloak. "This isn't a game. They kill my brother. They'll kill us too if they find us." Kale shot her a sideways glance, his amber eyes softening just a fraction. "Then we won't let them find us." A sudden rustle in the darkness made them freeze. Garrick's hand flew to the axe at his belt, muscles coiled like a spring. From the gloom, a figure emerged, small, wiry, and grinning like a fox who'd found the henhouse. Well, the newcomer drawled, stepping into a sliver of moonlight. "If it ain't Garrick the Grouch and his merry band of misfits." Garrick's scowl deepened. "Jace, should have known you'd be skulking around like a rat." Jace placed a hand over his heart in mock offense. "And here I was, coming to warn you lot. The Black Fangs have a square locked down. You walk in there, you're walking into a slaughter." Kale's dagger twirled between his fingers. "Then we go around." Jace shook his head. "No good. They've got eyes on every back alley. Only way through is under." Lyra's eyes widened. "The sewers." Jace's grin turned wicked. "What's the matter, sweetheart? Afraid of a little dirt?" Garrick groaned. "I'd rather fight a dozen Black Fangs than wade through that filth again." Kale sighed. "Unless you've got a better idea, we don't have a choice." A distant shout echoed through the streets, followed by the clatter of boots on cobblestone. The Black Fangs were getting closer. Jace jerked his thumb toward a rusted grate half hidden by rubble. "Tick-tock, friends. We're out." Lyra swallowed hard but nodded. Garrick muttered a string of curses under his breath before stomping toward the grate. Kale, ever the last to show hesitation, simply sheathed his dagger and followed. As Jace pried the grate open, the stench of decay and stagnant water hit them like a physical blow. Garrick gagged. "I'm gonna kill you for this, Jace." Jace winked. "Promises, promises." One by one, They dropped into the darkness below, the grate clanging shut behind them like the lid of a tomb. Above, the sounds of pursuit faded, replaced by the steady drip of water and the scuttle of unseen things in the dark. Lita shivered. What now? Kale's voice was calm, steady. Now we move, and hope whatever's down here is friendlier than what's up there. Garrick's laughter was low and grim. Doubt it. And with that, they pressed forward, the weight of the city pressing down on them from above. Somewhere ahead lay answers, or their doom. Either way, there was no turning back now. Chapter 4. Here's Chapter 2, expanded to approximately 500 words with proper formatting and engaging dialogue. The alley seemed to grow colder as Lena stared at the impossible face before her. Daniel's features were sharper now, weathered by time and something darker, but those storm-gray eyes were unmistakable. Her combat stance wavered for just a second, long enough that he noticed. You always did hesitate when you recognized someone, Daniel said, wiping blood from his split lip. That's how I knew it was really you in Barcelona. Lena's breath caught. The Barcelona extraction, a classified mission from 3 years back. That was you in the hotel? The sniper who took out your mark before you could? Yeah. His grin didn't reach his eyes. You're welcome, by the way. A garbage can clattered in the distance, breaking the tense silence. Lena's hand flew to her hip holster. Daniel's reaction was faster. He had her pinned against the brick wall before she could blink, his forearm pressing against her collarbone. Still quick, she gasped, struggling against his grip. Still predictable. His breath was warm against her ear. They trained that out of most agents, but you always kept your tails. The distant wail of police sirens cut through the night. Daniel's head snapped toward the sound, his body tensing. Lena used the distraction to drive her knee up, but he twisted away with unnatural speed. Damn it, Lena. We don't have time for this. He grabbed her wrist again, his fingers like ice. They're coming for both of us now. She yanked her arm free. Who's coming? And start making sense, or I swear to God, I'll put a bullet between your eyes, ghost or not. Daniel's laugh was bitter. Same old fire. Remember our first stop in Prague? You said those exact words to that arms dealer. Lena's pulse pounded in her ears. Only Daniel would remember that. Only he would know about the scar hidden beneath her sleeve from where that bastard had cut her. Her voice dropped to a whisper. How are you alive? Before he could answer, a red laser appeared on his chest. Lena reacted instinctively, tackling him to the ground as a bullet whizzed overhead, embedding itself in the wall where his head had been. Told you, Daniel grunted from beneath her. His hands gripped her waist a second too long as they scrambled to their feet. Company's here. Lena drew her pistol. Who the hell are they? Same people who faked my death. Who've been manipulating you. He pulled a strange-looking device from his jacket, sleek, black, utterly unfamiliar. And who really don't want us comparing notes. The device beeped twice. Daniel's face went pale. Run. Now. They took off down the alley, just as the first explosion rocked the street behind them. Lena felt the heat lick at her back as debris rained down. Daniel grabbed her hand, pulling her into a narrow service tunnel. In here. He shoved her through the doorway, just as another blast shook the ground. The metal door slammed shut behind them, plunging them into darkness. Lena's chest heaved as she tried to catch her breath. She could feel Daniel close in the blackness, smell the gunpowder and leather scent of him. Real. Alive. Start talking, she demanded, her voice raw. All of it. A match flared to life, illuminating Daniel's weary smile. Where to begin? How about welcome to the real war, partner? Chapter 5. The sewers have been a nightmare of twisting tunnels and things that slithered in the dark. Still, the group had emerged, filthy, exhausted, and miraculously alive, into the heart of the city's underbelly. Before them loomed the Iron Vault, a fortress-like structure rumored to hold the Black Fawn Gang's most dangerous secrets. Torches flickered along its walls, casting long, dancing shadows. Garrick wiped grime from his face and spat. If this is where they're hiding their loot, they've got terrible taste in decor. Kale studied the towering doors, his expression unreadable. It's not loot we're after. It's the ledger, proof of their dealings with the city guard. Without it, no one will believe they've bought half the lawkeepers in this damn place. Lyra shifted nervously, her fingers tracing the hilt of a stolen dagger. And if it's guarded? Jace, who had been unusually quiet since their descent, flashed a grin that didn't reach his eyes. Then we improvise. Distraction, deception, maybe a little light arson, whatever works. Garrick clapped a heavy hand on Jace's shoulder, making the smaller man wince. I like the way you think, Rat, but let's try not to burn the place down before we get what we came for. Kale moved toward the vault's side entrance, his boots silent on the stone. Enough talking. Stay close, and if things go wrong, we fight our way out, Garrick finished, hefting his axe. Yeah, we know the drill. The door creaked open with a well-placed nudge from Jace's lockpicks, revealing a dimly lit corridor lined with crates and barrels. The air smelled of oil and damp parchment. Distant voices echoed from deeper inside, rough laughter punctuated by the clink of coin. Lyra's breath hitched. There's more of them than we thought. Kale didn't falter. Then we moved fast. They slipped inside, sticking to the shadows as they navigated the maze of storage rooms. Jace took point, his sharp eyes catching every tripwire and pressure plate. At one point, he held up a hand, freezing the group mid-step. Trap, he mouthed, pointing to a nearly invisible wire stretched across the hallway. Garrick rolled his eyes. Charming. These bastards really don't like guests. Jace disabled the mechanism with a few deft movements, then smirked. Good thing we weren't invited. They reached the central chamber, a vast room dominated by a massive iron desk. And there, sprawled across it in all its damning glory, was the ledger. Kale didn't hesitate. He snatched it up, tucking it into his coat. Got it. Now let's... A slow clap echoed through the room. From the shadows stepped a figure clad in black leather, a jagged scar running from brow to chin. The Black Fang leader, Draven. Well, Draven purred, his voice like oil on water. I was hoping you'd show up. Saves me the trouble of hunting you down. Garrick stepped forward, axe at the ready. Funny, I was just thinking the same thing. Draven's smile was a knife's edge. Goo, but you're outnumbered. As if on cue, armed thugs filed into the room from every doorway, blades glinting in the torchlight. Kale's grip tightened on his dagger. Jace. Distraction. Now, Jace sighed. Why is it always me? But his hands were already moving, pulling a small vial from his belt. With a flick of his wrist, he sent it shattering to the ground. Smoke erupted in a thick, choking cloud, filling the room in seconds. Lyra grabbed Kale's arm. This way, they bolted for a side passage, the sounds of shouting and coughing close behind. Garrick brought up the rear, laughing like a madman. Damn, that was close, he roared. Kale didn't slow down. It's not over yet. And he was right, because ahead, the corridor ended in a dead end. And behind them, the Black Fangs were closing in. Garrick cracked his knuckles. Well, guess we do this the hard way. Kale drew his blade, eyes gleaming in the dark. Guess we do. Chapter 6. The safe house stank of burnt coffee and gun oil. The single bulb overhead flickering like a dying heartbeat. Lena paced the cramped space, her boots scuffing against blood-stained floorboards. Daniel sat motionless at the rickety table, cleaning his pistol with methodical precision. The silence between them was thick enough to choke on. You knew. Lena finally spat, whirling to face him. This whole damn time, you knew it was them. Daniel didn't look up. I had theories. Theories? She slammed her palms on the table, making the weapon jump. They left you for dead. They've been using me as their goddamn attack dog. His hands stilled. And whose fault is that? Lena recoiled like she'd been slapped. Excuse me? Daniel finally met her gaze, his eyes glacial. You never questioned anything. Not the missions, not the body counts, not the convenient accidents. He reassembled the pistol with sharp, angry clicks. Blind loyalty looks an awful lot like complicity, partner. The word partner stung like a brand. Lena's fingers twitched toward her weapon. I trusted them, just like I trusted you, before you vanished into thin air. A bitter laugh escaped him. Yeah, well, turns out trust gets you killed in this business. Outside, tires screeched. Both of them froze, hands flying to their guns. The distant chatter of radios filtered through the thin walls. Black SUVs, Daniel muttered, peering through the blinds. 2 blocks out. Lena's stomach dropped. That's our extraction team. Wrong. Daniel tossed her a spare magazine. That's our execution squad. She caught on reflex. How do you know? Because I've been on the other end of these ops. His smile was razor thin. Remember Moscow? The rogue agent we took out in that hotel. Lena's blood ran cold. That was another loose end? Yeah. He racked the slide on his pistol. Welcome to the club. Boots pounded up the fire escape. Daniel moved like lightning, barricading the door with a filing cabinet. Back exit. Now. Lida has started. What about the data? Already transmitted. He shoved a burner phone into her hands. The screen showed a single file. Project Phoenix, authorization, Carter/L. Her initials. The first bullet tore through the door, splintering wood near Daniel's head. He didn't flinch. Choice time, Huntress. Die as their weapon. He kicked open the rear window. Or live long enough to become their nightmare. Another volley of gunfire. Plaster rained from the ceiling. Lena looked at the file, then at the man she'd mourned for 5 years, now standing in a hail of bullets like it was just another Tuesday. She bared her teeth in a feral grin. You always were a dramatic bastard. Daniel's laugh was lost in the gunfire as they dove through the window, the safe house exploding in flames behind them. The last thing Lena saw before they hit the alley was the Project Phoenix file blinking on screen. Termination order, L. Carter approved. Chapter 7. The dead-end corridor offered no escape, but Kale's eyes darted upward, a rusted grate in the ceiling, barely visible through the smoke. Jace, can you get that open? Jace didn't hesitate. He leapt onto Garrick's shoulders like a squirrel scaling a tree, lockpicks already in hand. Hold still, you overgrown ox. Garrick growled, but braced himself. Hurry up before I decide to toss you at the Black Fangs instead. The first of Draven's men lunged from the smoke, blade flashing. Lyra ducked, driving her dagger in his thigh. The man howled, collapsing, but 3 more took his place. Kale parried a strike, countering with a slash that sent another thug stumbling back. Jace, anytime now. Metal screeched as the grate gave way. Got it, Jace shouted, hauling himself through. Someone tossed Lyra up. Garrick grabbed Lyra by the waist and hurled her upward. Jace caught her wrists, pulling her into the duct with a grunt. Kale kicked an attacker back, then turned to Garrick. You next. Garrick scoffed. Like hell. You're lighter, go. He seized Kale by the collar and practically threw him toward the opening. Kale barely caught the edge, hauling himself up as a Black Fang blade narrowly missed his boot. Garrick turned to face the remaining thugs, axe raised. All right, maggots. Who's first? Above, Kale's voice was sharp. Garrick, jump. With a roar, Garrick swung his axe in a wide arc, forcing the men back, then leapt, just as Jace's second smoke vial exploded below. Kale and Jace grabbed his arms, muscles straining as they dragged him into the duct. The cramped space reeked of mold and rust, but they didn't stop moving. Behind them, Draven's furious scream echoed through the tunnels. Find them. I want their heads on spikes. Lyra panted, crawling ahead. Where does this lead? Jace smirked. Straight to the river docks. And guess what's waiting there? Garrick groaned. Don't say a boat. I hate boats. Kale shot him a look. Would you prefer staying here to explain things to Draven? The sound of rushing water grew louder. Ahead, dim light filtered through another grate. Jace kicked it open, revealing the moonlit river below. A small skiff bobbed in the water, tied to a post. Lyra exhaled in relief. You planned this. Jace winked. Always have an exit strategy. They dropped into the boat, Jace slicing the rope with a flick of his knife. The current seized them instantly, pulling them away from the burning city. Garrick slumped against the hull, wiping blood from his brow. So, we got the ledger. What now? Kale pulled the book from his coat, flipping it open to reveal names, dates, payments. Enough corruption to bring down the Black Fangs and the guards who'd aided them. Now we take this to the High Council. Let them clean up their own mess. Lyra's voice was quiet but fierce. And Draven, Kale's gaze hardened. He'll hang, or he'll run. Either way, his reign's over. Jay stretched, grinning. And we get to be the heroes for once. How boring. Garrick barked a laugh. Speak for yourself. I'm buying a damn tavern after this. As the boat carried them into the night, the city's glow fading behind them, Kale allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. It wasn't every day they walked away from a fight with more than their lives. But today, they'd won something better. Justice, and maybe a fresh start. And that was the end of the story. Comment below if you want the next chapter, and hit that like button. Please subscribe, turn on the bell, and as always, keep the last light burning.